Hello students and welcome to Royal Palace PU College Jamkhandi online classes. Today we will be continuing the next topic of this chapter, that is chapter number 2, biological classification, and today's topic is Kingdom Protista. We have already studied about the different stages of classifications, wherein which we even studied about Kingdom Monera also. There were different characteristics relating to prokaryotes, relating to unicellularity, and relating to the types and characterization of bacteria. But today there will be another topic, and this topic concerns with the improvements in the microorganisms. This is quite dilemmatic kingdom, wherein which the characters are little bit overflowing and inflowing between the different kingdoms. The name of the kingdom is Kingdom Protista, right? So let us enter into this particular category and let us study the different characteristics relating to this particular kingdom. Okay. Now, for the first thing, let me tell you that after the bacteria, after the unicellularity, after the prokaryotic nature, for the first time, the organisms shown a different variety of cellular nature. Here, in this kingdom, we see not prokaryotes but eukaryotes. Remember, the entire prokaryotes were completely added into Kingdom Monera, but the Kingdom Protista candidates, Kingdom Protista members, or the organisms in Kingdom Protista are eukaryotic in nature, right? So once again I am telling you, eukaryotic in nature, that is one point. But the cellular type did not improve once again. Still, these organisms are unicellular only. That is, prokaryotic unicellular nature we have seen in case of Kingdom Monera. But unicellular eukaryotic nature we will be seeing in Kingdom Protista. Here, the organisms are single-celled, and the organisms are made up of true nucleus, or the nucleus is well defined, or the nucleus is layered with the nuclear membrane. This is the most important section. Please, dear students, underline this one and make it as the important one. Kingdom Protista members are single-celled eukaryotic in nature. I am repeating it again and again. Okay, right. The explanation further enters into some more characterization, that this is a quite dilemmatic, as I mentioned in the previous section, that here you can see the eukaryotic nature, but along with the eukaryotic nature there should be some other organelles, there should be some other parts of the cell which can completely explain it as the member of Protista. Some scientists think that this is a plant in nature, and some scientists think that these are photosynthetically Protistan in nature. Now let me tell you about this thing. But first of all, what we'll do, we'll make the underlining of these things, and that is, these are single-celled organisms and these are eukaryotic in nature. Now the next thing is, what may be a photosynthetic Protistan to one biologist, it may be a plant to another. Why this kind of sentence? It clearly explains that the members of Kingdom Protista, they show a behavior of green in nature, they show a behavior of creation of their own food in nature. They show a behavior of the utilization of sunlight in nature, right? So these are the characteristics which are present in kingdom Plantae, and these are the characteristics which are present in the kingdom Protista. So it was a quite confusing kingdom, wherein which the members might have the characteristics of kingdom Protista, and even they have the characteristics of the kingdom Plantae also. That's why majority of the biologists fail to understand all the organisms of the kingdom Protista. But my point of telling you is only one thing, that is, the first point says that the kingdom Protestan members are unicellular and eukaryotic in nature. That is first one. Now the second one is that if we want to divide what are the different types of members which are present in kingdom Protista, I would go for 5 different varieties. So let us study them one by one. The first category goes as the chrysophytes. The second one as dinoflagellates. Third one as euglenoids. Fourth, slime molds. And at the end, protozoans. I repeat, the kingdom Protista right now with respect to NCERT have got 5 different sections of organisms, and they are chrysophytes, dinoflagellates, euglenoids, slime molds and protozoans. Remember students, we need to discuss all these individually. Okay, let us go to the next point. Point 1 over, point 2 over, and the third point says that these kingdom Protista members are generally aquatic in nature. What do you mean by aquatic? Aquatic means those organisms for 100% of their entire life they will live only in the water. They use the habitat as the water. They survive in the water. They have the adaptations in the water. They reproduce in the water. So entirely without the water, it is not possible for them to survive. So aquatic, when we say aquatic, means it is of 2 types once again. I will be showing those things in the next photos such as this one. Now students, watch these particular photos on the screen. These photos show 1 and 2, 3 and 4. Now the first 1 and 2 are called as the fresh water systems. The 3 and 4 are called as marine or marine water systems. Now the question is, sir, what do you mean by fresh water and marine water? Fresh water is that kind of water system wherein which the concentration of salinity or salt or the ingredient contents which makes it alkaline are completely less in nature. It will be the environment wherein which the most basic and domestic aquatic organisms can grow. These are stagnant in nature, and generally the major thing is that the salt concentration is almost nil or less in nature. As far as photo number 3 and photo number 4 are, they are called as marine ecosystem or marine water conditions. Generally in these 2 places concentration of salt is more. So the organisms, if the organisms are staying in 1 and 2, they are called as aquatic but freshwater aquatic organisms. If the organisms are staying in 3 and 4, we say that these are aquatic but marine or marine aquatic organisms. Are you understanding students? I hope it is very basic and it is very easier thing. So next, once again I will repeat it, that the members of kingdom Protista are completely aquatic in nature because they stay in the water, they reproduce in the water, they survive in the water. Now next line or next characteristic here, that This kingdom forms a link with the others dealing with plants, animals and fungi. Dear students, mark this point as very important because this might be asked even in your NEET examination in some of the quite confusing questions. This statement says that this kingdom forms a link. What is the meaning of link with respect to plants, animalia and the fungi? Linking means that it is having the characteristics of plants in them, the members of Protista having the characteristics of animals, the members of kingdom Protista are having the characteristics of even fungi or mycota members. It is quite interesting, that's why I told you that it is quite dilemmatic also in the beginning, that it is having the characteristics of variety of organisms of different kingdoms. That's why the biologists say that it is a connecting link between the plantae, that is the members of kingdom plantae, and the kingdom animalia, that is the members of kingdom animalia, that is the fungi, that is all the mycotan members. All these organisms having one or two similar characteristics which are forming with respect to kingdom Protista, right? Okay, now let's understand the next characteristic, that the fifth one being eukaryotes. As I mentioned, that what is the meaning of eukaryotes? Eukaryotes are those organisms which have a true nucleus, or the nucleus is completely surrounded by a definite cell or nuclear membrane. Now of course within this particular cell itself we will be finding a lot of things, and we can find the mitochondria, we can find the cytoplasm, we can find the nucleus, we can find the vacuoles, we can find the chloroplast, we can find a lot of things in between. Golgi apparatus, we have got so many in between characteristics or organelles. The word organelle means the inner parts of a cell. Cell organelle, I repeat, cell organelle means the inner parts of a cell. Now being eukaryotic in nature, it has got even all those, not entirely everything, but the cell bound organelles, membrane bound organelles, right? So the point says that the being eukaryotic in nature, the Protista members have got well defined nucleus and the membrane bound organelles, means the cell and its inner parts also. Some are the kingdom Protista members, they have flagella and cilia. It is quite interesting to understand. So some have flagella or cilia means some of the organisms for their movement from one place to another place, from their transportation from one place to another place, from their basic locomotion from one place to another place, they need a tail-like structure, and that tail helps in swimming, that helps in moving from one place to another place. Now that's why that tail thing, in case of biology, in case of these particular kingdom Protestant members, are called as flagella or cilia. Cilia are also hair-like structures which are present onto the external body of that organism, and they generally move, and according to their movement these organisms can move from one place to another place. Remember, once again I am telling you students that flagella or cilia are nothing but the locomotory structures from which the organism can move from one place to another. Now let us go into the next point, that is the reproduction of kingdom Protista. Now kingdom Protestant members, they can undergo sexually and asexually. There are two varieties of the reproduction. First one as the sexual reproduction, wherein which two parents are needed, two organisms are needed, and these two organisms have got the sexual gametes to them, and they have the sexual intercourse, and after that, after the fusion of male gamete and female gamete, that is the sperm with the egg, there will be a fertilization taking place, and from the fertilization there will be release of zygote and then the release of embryo, etc., etc. The next offspring will be born. Now in case of asexual means it is not at all involving any kind of two parents and not at all involving the formation of gametes also. I am not saying the parents are not involved, I am just saying that one organism can be having both the sexes, or one organism can undergo fission, one organism can cut into two pieces, one organism as a parent body can result into the cellular fission, can result into fragmentation, can result into budding, can result into regeneration, can result into spore formation, can result into even another type of reproduction called as vegetative reproduction. Students, there are so many varieties of explanations which come under this particular kingdom Protista and even in our entire biology section. We will discuss those explanations also, but after some of the topics or when we enter into the actual reproduction chapters. Now the last point I am saying that the kingdom Protista members reproduce sexually and even asexually. Here we can find the zygote formation. Zygote is the one which results when the fusion of male and female gametes takes place. Okay students, let us go further. As you can see in the picture that these are the variety of Protistan members. I have given some of the names such as slime molds here, and then the amoeba, and then the euglena, dinoflagellate, paramecium, diatoms, then macroalga. See, all these variety of organisms are generally not at all a flagella having, not at all cilia having. Some are non-flagellated, some are non-ciliated. See, this one and even this one. The four characteristics or four organisms do not have any kind of flagella or cilia. Might be they are stationary in nature, might be they are not at all moving from one place to another place. But whatever the organisms here such as euglena or dinoflagellata or paramecium, these organisms having the cilia or flagella means they can move from one place to another place, or they show the locomotion as fast as possible. Sometimes even the slime molds and the diatoms and macroalga might show, but it's not possible or it's not recorded, might show a little bit of movement. But generally the organisms which have cilia or flagella show higher rates of movements. Okay students, now this is also another thing, as I was telling you that this particular kingdom is having variety of characteristics in it. Now the first one is that this is having animal-like characteristic, it is having plant-like characteristic, it is like fungus-like characteristic, and it is multicellular seaweed-like characteristics. Animal-like, that it has got the external, can you see here, these are cilia, okay, these are cilia, right, these are flagella, right, these are locomotory organs, right. What is the behavior of animal here? They show locomotion from one place to another place. They show movement from one place to another place. This is the characteristics of the animals. That's why they showed that these organisms can behave like animals. Now the second one is, this is photosynthetic in nature and this is appearing green in nature, which is having the characteristic of the plant once again, right. So in this particular organism we see the plant like, animal like, because it is having a flagella, right, this is a flagella, and this is even having the appearance of green color in nature, presence of chloroplast or etc. Right, like this the organisms are having different characteristics which indicates about different variety of the members, right. And the third one like the fungus. This is called as a plant body. It may be called as the hyphae or the thallus, or the thallus is divided into different septate and non-septate. We will study these things in our next topic, that is in kingdom Mycota. We will study about these things. Likewise, 1, 2, 3, 4 variety of characteristics are present in this kingdom Protista. That's why it is quite confusing. It is quite dilemmatic in understanding whether this organism belongs to kingdom Animalia, or whether it organism belongs to kingdom Plantae, or whether it organism belongs to kingdom Fungi. Right? Anyways, let us go to the next section. That is the types of varieties of kingdom Protista, and that is the first one called as the chrysophytes. Okay, and we are having quite different, as I mentioned in the beginning, that there are totally 5 different varieties of kingdom Protista members we see. Okay, so let us study about chrysophytes. Okay sir, now in this chrysophytes, the first point says that this group completely indicates, or this group contains the diatoms. Underline this thing, students. This is the most important point. Okay, these group includes diatoms. Relating to diatoms, there are theory questions and there are even NEET questions. So as far as the theory part is concerned, and even in the NEET part is concerned, we need to understand about diatoms in a very conscious way. Try to remember as much as possible with respect to diatoms. Okay, so how the diatoms look like? Come on, see all these different organisms that you see, those shiny organisms that you see, all these soap box kind of organisms you see, all these ornamental jewelry type, ring type organisms that you see, all these are the diatoms. These beautiful looking, shiny appearing organisms are diatoms. Dear students, do not forget this particular topic, diatoms, kingdom Protista, chrysophyta. Now I hope you have seen enough of this particular photo, wherein which I am saying that these variety, even can't you see that these are also beautiful in nature, so variety in nature, it's so beautiful to even see them, right? So with that understanding, this group includes diatoms and golden algae. Now they are found in the freshwater as well as marine environment. I told you in the beginning that freshwater, wherein which salt concentration is no, nil, etc., or in case of marine, the salt concentration is huge. Okay, saltwater organisms and freshwater organisms. So we can find chrysophytes in both the categories. Now the third one, they are microscopic and float passively in the water currents. Now one word, microscopic, clearly explains the characteristic of the kingdom Protista, and that is these are single celled organisms. Of course, this is the basic thing, that if the organism is single celled in nature, we cannot see it by our naked eyes. It should be seen by the microscope only, right? And these organisms float. The meaning of floating, which means that there will be three layers in the aquatic system. See, uppermost layer which receives the complete sunlight, the middle layer which receives the partial sunlight, and the bottom layer which do not receive any kind of sunlight. Some organisms float, some organisms swim, and some organisms show their own internal modification to that particular area. So plankton organisms, remember, plankton organisms are those organisms which float, right? Which float, right? Like right onto the surface, they float, right? And there are other organisms such as nectons. Remember, nectons, N-E-K-T-O-N-S, nectons. Nectons are those organisms which swim. Okay, the first variety is plankton, which means that they float. The second variety is nekton, which means that they swim, and the third variety is the organisms which show their presence only in the absence of sunlight, right? In dark sunlight. It's completely even impossible to imagine that these organisms are not at all having a consciousness of the presence of sunlight, right? Those organisms are called as benthic organisms. So benthic organisms are those organisms which live deep down into the ocean, where in which the sunlight is completely absent. Okay, now I hope you understood about planktonic organisms. Planktonic organisms are those organisms which float onto the water surface. Now the next thing is about the fourth point, that most of these are photosynthetic in nature. What do you mean by photosynthetic? Photosynthetic is that meaning wherein which it utilizes the sunlight and prepares its own food. Very beautiful to understand, very needed to understand. Photosynthetic, utilization of sunlight and preparation of its own food. Okay, and even they are floating also. Now the next thing is about this particular explanation, that these diatoms are of two-sided actually. See, this is one diatom's bottom surface and this is another diatom's, the same diatom's upper surface, right? So it is like a soap box, right? A soap box, the bottom one and the upper one. It looks like this. Soap box. It contains two layers, the bottom one and the upper one. It generally appears like a soap box because we see one onto another one as an overlapping modifications. Overlapping. This is overlapping onto this one. Okay. Now once again I am telling you, the structure of a diatom having two thin overlapping covers or shells which fit together as a soap box. Okay. Now these soap box or the external modification or the body modification or the wall modification of these chrysophytes are made up of silica. Silica. Try to understand, silica means SiO2, silicon dioxide. Okay, silica. Once again I am repeating, the outer layer of the chrysophytes or the outer layer of the diatoms is made up of SiO2 or silica, and it is strong in nature, it is packed in nature, it is hard in nature, it is not possible for it to break. So that's why these walls generally are indestructible. One cannot destroy, one cannot cut, one cannot break open these particular walls. But when these particular chrysophytes or in general diatoms, they die, remember my words here, when the diatoms die, with respect to their own death, they have created a huge deposit in the oceans. In their particular place, that is called as habitat, wherein which they used to stay and survive, after their death, they create a huge amount of collection of their cell wall deposits. Remember, cell wall deposits, the content which is having silica in it. And since that deposit is huge in nature, it is called as, remember my word, try to remember my word, that this is called as the diatomaceous earth. The word is diatomaceous earth. The word is diatomaceous earth, which means that after the death of these particular diatoms, they show a big huge collection of the deposits of their cell wall, that is silica, and that is called as diatomaceous earth. Now because of this gritty nature, because of this powdery nature or grain like nature of this silica, it is used in many versions like polishing, like filtration of oils and syrups. Okay, now if someone asks you that who are called as the chief producers of this oceans, then the clearer answer is the diatoms. Once again, I am telling you, dear students, that the diatoms are called as the chief producers in the oceans. They are photosynthetic in nature, they produce huge amounts of diatomaceous earth in nature, they provide food to majority of the organisms, and they are autotrophic in nature. That's why the word the producers in the oceans, they produce food to majority of organisms. So as you see that this is the photo that I have already shown you, having the different varieties of diatoms in it. This is also another photo. This also looks like a soap box. This also looks like overlapping structures. This also appears like jewels. This also appears variety of shiny content that we see. All this thing with respect to their habitat, when they die off, they show the collection, the deposit in that place, and that deposit is called as, yes, the diatomaceous earth. Now this is a soap box appearance. The upper one lid and lower lid, they just join and behave like a soap box. Now if I go further with respect to another category called as the dinoflagellates. Okay, dinoflagellates. Now the word itself indicates that these having flagella in nature. The first variety was Chrysophyta and the second one is dinoflagellates. Okay, now the characteristics of dinoflagellates, let us enter into these points and let us understand them. The first point, that these organisms are mostly marine and photosynthetic. Once again, another word with respect to marine, another word with respect to photosynthetic. That photosynthetic organisms are those organisms which can prepare their own food for their growth and development. They utilize the sunlight, and these are marine in nature, means they are generally present in the salt water conditions. Now they may be in different colors. Here they say that they may appear in yellow color, green, brown, blue or red, depending upon the main pigments present in their cells. Now about pigment, let me tell you, the word is pigment here. Pigment, what do you mean by a pigment? Pigment is nothing but a coloring agent, dear students. Now what is the coloring agent? The sunlight has got different wavelengths, the sunlight has got different radiations, and these radiations with respect to their spectrum of absorbing, different color conditions are present in different organisms. Some organisms or some plants or some animals, they are red in nature, some are blue in nature, some are yellow in nature, some are even black in nature. There will be different varieties of colors, and these colors are because of the presence of different pigments which are present in their body. One pigment shows green, another pigment shows red, some pigments show different color, like that. So majority of the organisms of the plants, or the majority of the plants, they are generally green in nature. One might ask a question, sir, why because of green? It is because of the presence of the chlorophyll in them. Chlorophyll is one of the pigment or coloring agent which provides green color to the plants. Okay, right. Now next thing is about these cell walls. The cell wall has a stiff cellulose plates on the outer surface. Now underline this one. This is one of the important content with respect to NEET. The outer content, outer layer or the outer materials of this particular protistans of dinoflagellates are made up of cellulose. The word is cellulose. They are made up of cellulose. Cellulose is also one of the packing material. Okay, now most of them have two flagella. The meaning of two flagella means they have two locomotory structures, the tail like structures or cilia like structures. Okay, and they have got a longitudinal cut in between their body. If this is the body, and this body has got longitudinal cut, and that is called as furrow. Okay, that is called as furrow. This is one plate, this is one plate, and if they are made up of like that, and this between this cut is called as the furrow between the wall plates. Okay, now the next connection, that is the last point, that very often red flagellates undergo such rapid multiplication that they make sea appear red or red tides, right? And what kind of a photo? See, these are the different varieties of Protestant members, dinoflagellates. Yes, this topic I want to tell you. So this is a picture. In this picture, everything appears generally red in nature, and this red nature is because of that particular dinoflagellate or red flagellate or red dinoflagellate, which is having the pigment of red color in it. Since their rapid multiplication, since their rapid reproduction, since their increase in the number of organisms, the entire sea appears red in nature. When the tides come in the sea or the ocean, in the ocean, we see the appearance as red. It is because of the presence of these red dinoflagellates. Now, the example here he has given as Gonalax, and the toxins released by such large members may even kill other marine animals such as fishes. Okay, now this point we need to understand. Red tide is because of red dinoflagellates. One of the example are Gonalax, and since because of the increase in a number of multiplication it might appear like that, and since big in number they can produce the chemicals. These chemicals in increased quantities appear toxic in nature. Toxicity is that kind of a meaning which is like a poison, and this appearance can lead to the death of other aquatic organisms. Okay students, I hope you are understanding the second variety, that is dinoflagellate.